Well, I mean, to have an idea to do something a little bit out of the box, and this is one of the major criticisms that my legislation has got to, is like, who the hell is writing this piece for the president? Because why you're doing a declaration of bills, right? A declaration of rights. And so getting into the history of the liberty movement throughout the centuries was definitely an inspiration to get into this kind of modeling of writing. But being in touch with the reality of entrepreneurs in Brazil and gathering suggestions from them was the true inspiration for the specific content of the bill. And the idea that we put forward a 10 rights bill that actually are just the seeds that we need to put into law so we can conduct we can conduct public policies for it. It's certainly the inspiration from having dealing with people that were just full of the statist ideas that we have to be living with. So coming from the libertarian movement in Brazil, being part of the CFL, getting in touch with those people, understanding the reality of the state, of what the state does to people, does to business, does to the opportunity of social mobility of poor people. I mean, definitely that's what was one of the major inspirations that led me to propose such a project for my boss, which is also a libertarian. And we wouldn't be there if it wasn't for this revolution that it's coming, that's turning around in Brazil right now. According to economic studies, if we are able to bring forward all public policies behind the 10 or 12 rights, actually, after Congress passed it, of the Economic Freedoms Bill, we expect about 3.7 million jobs added in the next 10 years, and also an increase in about 7% in the GDP per capita of the country. So we are very excited about it because it's a kind of public policy that was long overdue in Brazil. And the idea that we're bringing forward this to people, and people just say, this is so basic, why haven't we done it before? So it's starting to do something more interesting than I thought. It's starting to create need for replication in state and municipal and local levels, right? So although we're doing this at the federal government, state and local levels are copying because it's pop. Economic freedom is pop. We had left-wing politicians in Brazil that was there. They want to criticize this very specific part of the bill and say, no one is against economic freedom, but I don't like this part of the bill. And that's true. So this kind of movement, this impact will certainly grow the numbers that I previously mentioned. Yeah, I guess there's two reasons why I think that this is true. I mean, the first one is the very way that we put down the concept, right? We call it rights, that you have to respect them. It's different when you just say, oh, we're extinguishing this license. No, it's not about extinguishing license. It's about I have the right to conduct economic activity without licensing. So those concepts, the way that we're putting them down for the population, creates this political movement of people and social movement of people saying, okay, this has to be implemented. I will demand from the local authorities, from my mayor, from my state governor, that I want those rights. These are my rights, and I will put forward those rights because I have the right to develop my economic activities. And the second way that I think we have done that, starting to tackle, right? Because changing mindsets are a huge challenge. Not only in the public sector, but in the private sector as well. People think that, oh, it's so easy to change the mindset of a private company. It's not true. It's very challenging. So the second way that we're trying to do it is by changing very basic principles of law, both public and private law. And we have put down there some changes in law, some very deep ones, I have to say, that sometimes, and I swear to God, I think, oh my God, how we managed to do it. And so those kind of changes are seeds that we'll see in the future how they're gonna grow. I'm not sure if I'm there for 3 more years. When I first got the invitation, I thought, okay, this is my chance to go to the government and do a contribution that I always say that people should do, right? Oh, you should change that law, you should privatize, you should liberalize. So that was my turn to go to do those things. So I thought, okay, let me take the turn. I don't know if I'm going to be there for the 3 more years, but I know that right now my number one priority is put forward public policies that can make sure that the Economic Freedom Bill is going to take full effect of its potential. Because you see, the Economic Freedom Bill is just one piece of bill inside this whole public policy that we want to have of economic freedom. So it's about making sure that we extinguish at least 70% of all licensing in Brazil to a permit to work, a professional license, a permit to build, an authorization to start studying in some circumstances. So that would be a revolution of the kind of obligations and requirements that our Brazilians have. Put down responsibilities for the way that the state handle economic activity, because right now it does so without consequences for the wrongdoings that it has faced. Increase judicial certainty, because you don't know the law in Brazil and we are losing investments. So this is a priority of our secretary as well. And to me, a review of our regulatory stock, a complete review, is also in the near future, and it's also a dear project that I'm holding to my heart that will change the way that we do regulation in Brazil. So this is what I can say for the next month. But for the next years, I mean, we have to see where it will take us. I mean, certainly I would like to next do something much related with the judiciary, or start big projects to tackle corruption within the government. And I think this is the time for it. I mean, this is the time. We have a unique opportunity to do it so. Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the biggest opportunities that we have, is when implementing those public policies behind the bill, is to put them forward in a way that we can fight corruption. Let me give you some examples. When we extinguish 5,000 of licenses, millions actually, what's going to be after we're finishing the 4 years. What we're doing actually is that we're taking out the discretionary powers that some agents have within the state to control people. And that's one of the greatest incentives ever for corruption. Putting down predictable terms for conducting activity, guaranteeing binding effect for every single administrative decision. This is something that the bill has put forward that's unprecedented in Brazil. And if we are successful, and our challenge is to fight the bureaucracy, because not necessarily the corrupts will come to fight the implementation of those policies, but the status quo, or the establishment of the government, which is 90% of it, which doesn't come and go when you have different elections, those people don't like change. As in a private company, I mean, it's hard to change things in a private company as well. So the biggest challenge for us to fight corruption is to put forward instruments and systems, as an engineer will put, that make sure that we will not have the opportunities and incentives to do so. So it's taking down perversive situations, is ensuring predictability, great publication of the acts, and diminishing the opportunities for discretionary power.